Welcome to Courage to be Visible, the podcast for heart-centered entrepreneurs who are done hiding in the shadows and ready to step into the spotlight. I'm your host, Andrea Stenberg. I'm a video marketing strategist and a big believer that showing up as your true self is your marketing superpower. Welcome. I'm so happy today. We have Jannette Anderson joining us. Jannette is the force behind Maturepreneur World. This is where 55 plus is not the finish line, it's the launch pad. Her mission is to make retirement a dirty word and elevate the undervalued wisdom of a workforce who are not done by a long shot into the global economic powerhouse that we truly are. So, Jannette, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm excited.
So I always start asking people, why is visibility such a challenge? But I think particularly for maturepreneurs, people who are over 55, why is that so difficult for them?
Well, as soon as you get a little bit older, especially for gray-haired women, actually, it's even worse. We tend to be overlooked, dismissed, and undervalued. And frankly, that's why I started Maturepreneur World, because I got pissed off on a cruise when I was dismissed and overlooked. Someone asked me, what do I do? In mid-sentence answering him, he turned and started talking to someone else. And it happened not once, but twice. And I was at a dinner and there was two gray-haired ladies at the other end of the table. No one was talking to them. I shouted down, hey, how are you two? And the two people across from them literally did this. Like they shook their heads like they had not seen them. Physically not seeing the two people sitting across from them. I was like, okay, I've been the subject of sizeism and sexism. I am not putting up with a thirdism in the form of ageism. So my goal is to end ageism through entrepreneurship.
Well, it always makes me shake my head about ageism, because it's the one ism that if everything goes to plan, everybody is going to be old at some point.
If you're lucky enough, you get to be old enough to be the subject of it, which is just really weird. And there's so many myths and mistaken notions, and people still act as if it's 1950, and that the whole thing of, go to school, get a job, climb the corporate ladder, have 2.5 kids, pick a fence, then retire and fade away is a real thing. That's so 1950s, and it didn't even work then. So we need to wake up to the fact that people are living 30, 40 years longer. They cannot and have not saved enough to be able to live 30 or 40 years longer. People don't realize that 65% of North Americans can't afford to retire. It means they have to work, and they can't, or create income, and they can't get jobs because of ageism. So they pretty much have to become entrepreneurs, and yet there's very little support and attention paid to that. And of the 35% who can afford, and by the way, hold 79.5% of the wealth in the world right now, can't afford to retire, they're choosing not to because they want to stay vital, mentally healthy, continue to contribute. They are just hashtag not done by a long shot. So I estimate about 80% of the population that would normally be considered retirement age are not retiring. And most people don't realize that, aren't waking up to it. And the market certainly isn't. I mean, commercials for us are for Depends and Viagra and walk-in tubs and stair lifts and drugs and drugs and drugs. They're not for things like business insurance and business loans and adventure travel and solo travel and business services, the things we actually want to need. And so the marketplace is literally leaving trillions of dollars on the table. Maturepreneurs or older people are not getting the support they need to be moving towards entrepreneurship or expanding in that realm. And so it's this incredible, I call it the perfect storm of opportunity that most people are missing.
Oh, I so agree with that. And like my sister is a personal trainer specializing in seniors, and she goes, if you want to learn how to do anything, just ask an older woman, because they've figured out the easiest, best, most efficient way to do things. And, by the time somebody's 55, 60, 70, you've experienced things, you've learned things, even if you were never the brightest person in the room, your experience, you have more to draw in, and you know how to do stuff.
Exactly. And so visibility is doubly hard for us, but the advantage that we bring is experience, that kind of, I call it contextual understanding. We have the history, which can be an impediment because older people can take the past and throw it on the future, which is not innovation. It's not really necessarily helpful. But when we bring that knowledge of here's why things work and how people work and so forth, then we can partner with younger people in the workplace and in the marketplace to truly bring innovation. They bring a blank slate, we bring context and expertise. Together, we are a powerhouse. And I hope corporate America wakes up to that a lot sooner rather than later.
Well, and also, like, when I'm working with younger entrepreneurs, they may have the skills of which button to push and how to make the technology work, but they don't have the interpersonal skills
Yeah.
that the older entrepreneurs bring to the table. And if you have those, if you know how to build a team, if you know how to sell in person, you can learn which buttons to push so that
Yeah,
you can do it online. But it's
exactly.
those interpersonal skills are those non-transferable skills are the most valuable when it comes to starting a business because you need to wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, humans buy from humans, right? We may have all sorts of bells and whistles in between. And there's a big myth that older people are not technical. Like I just like to remind people, we created the internet, you're welcome or not. We created AI, you're welcome or not. And AI is the great leveler. Like whether you were technical or not before, AI is not that hard to learn and it will allow you to keep up with any tech bro nowadays and do the things that you need to do. So there really isn't that excuse about we're not technical enough. It's like and it's also quite a myth. I have a friend who's 79 and I guarantee you she can run circles around any video production person who's a third of her age, because she just loves it and she does it a lot. And so as long as we have a growth mindset, the world is open to us and we are not done.
Well, and I think as bad as it was, one of the plus sides of the pandemic was everybody learned how to use Zoom.
Yep.
So even if you're not techie, you figured out that, and you can then do business with anybody anywhere,
Yeah.
and people know how to do that. So
Yeah.
what kinds of things are you seeing maturepreneurs doing to start businesses and to be visible? Like what are you people coming to you and telling you they're doing, or what are you seeing people doing that's interesting and exciting?
Well, everything and anything, really everything and anything. A lot of it is based, it tends to be more purpose led, versus transactional. And like a lot of times in our youth, we tend to be really focused on, okay, what's going to make me $1 billion in a month kind of thing. Now we're a little bit more sensible and don't buy that BS. And so a lot of it is expertise based, so consulting, training, coaching, speaking. A lot of maturepreneurs are creating what I would call their legacy message and passing on their particular expertise through speaking, writing books, content, etc., trainings. However, I also know many entrepreneurs. There's a lady in Calgary, Alberta, Marjorie Zingle, who started her first tech business at 69, had never been in tech before, bought a data center, grew it. It's now the largest data center in North America run by a woman, but and one of the largest data centers in North America. And now at 89, so 20 years later, she's launching her second tech business and is growing that business. Just took over another 20,000 square feet in downtown Calgary to grow that business and launch her second tech business. Seriously, I cannot keep up with the woman, and she wears like 5-inch heels. I don't know how she does it, but she's a bit of an outlier, but not as much as people would think. There are lots of people that are creating businesses, bricks and mortar and service-based businesses into their 70s and 80s and even 90s. I have 2 clients that are 89. So we really need to reframe how we think of time and what's possible. So I would say probably the majority of my clients are focused on creating speaking careers, passing on their expertise, mentorship, various models like that. But also I know people who are starting, those businesses that I always wanted to have, a B&B or a boutique, etc. All those things. And in many cases, purpose-led businesses or nonprofits, social enterprises, because there's a lot of desire to contribute, give back, and make a difference still.
I totally agree with that. I know I've spoken to lots of entrepreneurs who that is exactly it. Like they've paid their mortgage, their kids are gone. They don't need as much money as they did when they were younger because they've already got a place to live, but they have something that they're passionate about, something that they want to do that make a difference, but they still want to make some money too,
Yeah.
but that the money isn't the driving force. And I think for like, particularly for a lot of women entrepreneurs, and you can correct me if you have a different perspective, but women who were like, we took the jobs we could get, and then you have the family and all the other stuff, but now you've got some freedom, you've got some mental space, and you can devote your energy and creativity that you used to spend on getting the kids to hockey practice or off to school and make the lunches. Now you can focus it on what do you want to do?
Yes, which is both a wonderful and a big problem right now, because there's a lot of people who are saying, okay, now what? Or what's next? And when you ask them that question, particularly women, what do you want? I either get the deer in the headlights kind of look of I don't know, or the pure panic of what do you mean? What do I want? But a lot of people have not asked that question because they've grown up with obligation and expectations, and this is just how you do things, and you are the good wife and the good daughter and the good, etc. And so you follow a path that is largely expectation and for other people based. Now, like you said, there's this wonderful opportunity to say, what do I want? For many people, they first have to get over I call it the identity hump of who am I now that I'm not the CEO? Who am I now that I'm not the accountant? Who am I now that I'm not the stay at home mom? And what do I want? So I think the really big things that are important for this demographic and these people, this, by the way, just under 1 billion of us worldwide. So we're not talking a small cohort. And before long, we're 25% of the population. So we're talking a lot of people going through this. So it's not the fringe outliers. It's a big percentage of the population. So that really we need to clarify our vision. What do you want the next 20, 30, 40 years to look like? If you could be, do, and have anything, what would that be? And create from that blank slate, which for many people is kind of scary. That's why it often helps to get help with that and to call in someone who can hold possibility space for you, I'll call it, for you to step into. And then purpose. Again, who am I now that I'm not my roles? Our purpose never was what we do. That's what society tells us. My belief is our purpose is the intersection between what we're healing from the past and what we long for the future for ourselves and others. So what we're healing from the past and what we long for the future. So that's my definition of our why or our purpose. When we know what that is, A, it helps us differentiate in the marketplace at any age and stage. B, it gives us kind of that strategic direction. And C, it really helps us be aligned with who we want to be and the difference we want to make. And so it's really important to know that. But for many people, it's kind of right on the end of our nose. It's hard to see, like that phrase, if you can't see the label from inside the jar. So that's when it really helps to get someone who can help you clarify that why. And when you know your vision, what you want to create, you know your purpose so that it's in alignment with that, then you can figure out, okay, how am I going to live into that? Am I going to monetize it? Am I going to make it a nonprofit? Is it simply a lifestyle shift, like into a mobile life like I live? Or is it, some other side hustle of a passion project? What fits for that vision and that purpose? Rather than in the past, we used to build our life around our business. Now we build our business around our life. And that's a really valuable shift. And I think it's important for not only older people, but for younger people as well, because when we do that, we're a lot happier, we're more aligned, we're coming from our authentic, desires. So that's what a lot of people need to clarify in order to be able to move forward. But it often takes help.
I have a bunch of follow-up questions I want to have, but the first one I want to talk about is, so I really do resonate with that idea of when you get to that stage, like, because so many people weren't living intentionally, they were just kind of following what they had to do and what other obligation. And I know even for me personally, there was this whole period of time I was like, who am I now? Like I remember actually saying at one point, I don't even think I'd recognize the real me if she came up and slapped me on the face, because I'd worn so many different hats.
Yeah.
So and I think that's it's scary, but it's also exciting, isn't it? Like to suddenly have this, I get to choose something.
Yes.
Or I get to decide rather than just react to what's happening around me.
Exactly. Yeah, I get to get in the driver's seat, which can be, like you said, really scary, but also super exciting, because then there's this possibility to create those secret dreams that have been put on the back shelf, or back burner, and or been collecting dust on the shelf. I'm mixing my metaphors, but you get to bring those forward and live into them now, because it's never ever too late, as long as you're on this side of the dirt, to start being, doing, and having what you want.
Well, and I remember reading in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, he has some line about something that most people don't even achieve anything great until after 50. And I mean, his reasoning is because after 50, you're no longer worried about sex. And so now you can put your energy. But I remember reading that though, and thinking, you know what, like that was like really hopeful, because it's like, oh, you mean just because I haven't achieved everything I want to know, that it's not way, it's like, no, I'm just starting. Like at 50,
Yep.
I'm just starting. So that's kind of a really exciting opportunity to realize like it's not too late. And people have known that for a long time, that there are people starting new projects, doing new things, doing interesting things well beyond your 20s and 30s. 20s and 30s, you just have the energy, but once you get older, you've got the knowledge and experience.
Exactly. Well, and what people, just to put it in a simple context, we have a third of our life to go, right? So, if you think about it, 31 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, which is what a lot of people are living to now. 100 and beyond is becoming much more common. And very soon, scientists say people being born now and in the past like 5 years or so will be living to 130. So literally 65 is middle age. And so you got a third of your life to go. That's a long time. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, well, I guess I better retire now, do you really want to play pickleball and knit for the next 30 years? I don't think so. There's more to you, and there's more for you. So pitter patter, let's get at her. The world needs the wisdom, the experience, the strength, the vision, the heart, the kind of contextual understanding, the historical framework that you have. So many businesses suffer because they lose all of that historical information, because people are leaving, and new people don't have that knowledge of kind of what got them there. So you have a lot to offer, is the short version of this, and quite a bit of time to figure out, well, not to figure out what you want to do, but to live into what you want to do. You don't have a lot of time to figure it out. So again, pitter patter, let's get at it.
And also, you don't have to get it right straight out of the gate, because nobody does. Like, so you try something, maybe you falter, maybe it doesn't quite work as you hoped, but you still have, like, if you have 30 years,
Yeah.
If it takes you 5 years to actually get your feet under you and start rolling, like, that, you still have a lot of mileage left to get.
Exactly. And even if it's 15 or whatever. And a lot of people go, oh my God, that's a long time, I'm tired. And that's okay. You don't have to work the same way. You don't have to work hard. One of the good things about getting older is we realize what a fallacy this whole drive and push and prove kind of phase of life has been. That is what exhausts, especially women, so much, is that we spend so much time trying to prove ourselves. And as you get older, you realize that you don't have to do that. So it's not quite as exhausting when you're not always coming from approval and improving and so forth. So work isn't as hard. And if you're doing it, smart, we are better at asking for support. We're better at thinking things through in terms of what kind of makes sense here versus doing what other people say we should do. We're a little more discerning, hopefully, not always, but hopefully. There are so many things that are different in terms of how we do what we do. So it's not how you were when you were 30. It's not even how you were when you were 40 or even 50. And life is what you decide it can be and will be. So decide what you want and then get support in creating that, because it's so exciting to be more to have that fulfillment of actually living into your dreams.
I think that is so true. Now, one thing I did want to ask, so like as you get older, one of the realities is you don't have the energy and the stamina you had when you were 20. There's sometimes health issues and
Yeah.
things like that. How are you seeing people navigate some of these? We're not as fast as we were when we were younger. We can't work as long. How are people building successful businesses and managing the physical realities of aging?
That's a great question. So first of all, people are quite a bit healthier now. Our 60 is not our parents' 60. So that's different. So we need to reframe our brain around that. By and large, we get inundated with media about how sick and decrepit we are. All the commercials are for things like, those walk-in tubs and stair lifts and adult diapers, but really a very small percentage of the market actually needs that. Most of us, yeah, my back hurts more when I get up. I groan and creak when I get up more than I did. So we take it into account. Like I said, we don't have to prove as much. So there's not as much of that whole, I have to show up and look in a certain way and be a certain way, which takes a huge amount of weight and stress off of you. We work, in theory, smarter. Okay. And what I mean by in theory is, again, with AI, with virtual assistants, with things like that, we have options that we didn't have 20, 30 years ago in terms of how we worked. So if we learn how to delegate smart and we learn how to use the tools that can support us, we could be so much more leveraged now than we could be 10, 15 years ago in terms of just what we get done and how we get it done. So really a lot of it is about, you don't have to do the whole push 60 hours. I mean, you can if you want to, but why? So you build the business smarter. You call in more support if you're really smart. And because, I often use this analogy. I'm skipping around a little bit, but when they're building really big high rises, before they put up the high rise, if you look at the construction site, they dig a huge, big, but Jesus, foundation, right? You don't put up a high rise on a trailer pad. You create a big foundation of support. So one of the things that we do is we create better foundations of support. And that helps and makes a big difference in every way. So one of the things that's really important for people to do is leverage their network, call in support, get coaches, realize that we have conscious incompetence. And that's probably one of the hardest things for people. We've spent our whole life getting to a point where we are valued for having the answers. When you reinvent yourself, you don't have the answer. You just got a lot of questions. So, kind of petting our nose, realizing that we're starting over, we're moving in. Well, we're not starting over. We're starting something new, because starting over implies you don't have anything when you're beginning, and we do. And so we're moving into this new area, where we have conscious incompetence. Great. Get training, get a coach, get support. That's one of the big things that helps people overcome I can't work quite the same way, or I choose not to work the same way that I used to, and create a business model that fits for you, not the cookie cutter crap that people are trying to push on you, especially if you're in the online world, but one that fits for you. So I think the biggest thing is get clear on your vision and your purpose, then build the business model that serves that, and then how do I want to do that in the easiest, most enjoyable way possible? So one of the other things is ask better questions. Not how do I work harder, but how do I do things the easiest way I can?
I love that. I love that response. So, Jannette, if somebody is listening to this and thinking, you know what? Yeah, that's what I want to do. I need to do something like that for me. And they're like, I need to learn more about Jannette. Where can they reach you? Where can they find out more?
Well, you can go to maturepreneur.world. So that's mature and then preneur, like entrepreneur, .world. You can go there. You can go to my Maturepreneur World Facebook group. I'm on LinkedIn under Jannette Anderson. So basically, just go look for me and or search on the word maturepreneur, but I'm not the only one. Some people co-opted my phrase. I like to think it's my phrase. I've been using it for a lot of years. So that's one thing. The other thing is you can download my free gift From Overlooked to Overbooked, How to Create Purpose and Profit After 55. And it's got information on how to clarify your why, what some of your next steps can be. It's just a really practical support guide for you at this stage to be seen more, to be more visible, which I know you're really committed to. And I think that's so fabulous, by the way, Andrea. I really love that you are giving people wisdom to help them be visible in the world, because there's nothing more that human beings want more than to be heard, to be seen, and to be valued. So thank you for being part of that solution.
Well, thank you, Jannette. And I will have all those links in the show notes. So if you were driving and you couldn't take down the URL, it's in the show notes. Thank you, Jannette. This has been fabulous. And let's make the third act really powerful for everybody.
Exactly. Because, my friends, you are hashtag not done by a long shot.
Thanks for listening to Courage to be Visible. I hope today's conversation sparked ideas for your own visibility. If it helped, please share this episode with a friend. Follow the show and leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps. For links, show notes, and free resources to grow your visibility, head over to the show notes or visit my website. See you next time.